I'm President of Colin for YouTube. Joel Saints. That's my buddy Alan Gallant. That's my buddy Patrick McCray. We're here to review 278 of Dark Shadows, narrated by Alexander Moltke, written by Joe Caldwell, directed by Leila Swift. This was recorded July 3rd, 1967. Broadcast July 19th, 1967. If you own the Coffin box set, yes, they tell you the date this aired, which is a lot of fun. That's how I watched my episode today. I pulled out my Coffin box set.
They tell you what?
On the Coffin box set, on the when you put in the disc,
yeah.
When you go on the episode, it'll tell you, hey, this is when it aired, and you could right before you play it.
Yeah, sure.
Which is really, really cool. I dug out my.
In the Coffin set, it tells you when it aired.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I dug out my Coffin box set today. Third in this episode. It was a lot of fun to go back and rewatch. And I really enjoyed Elizabeth in this episode. How she tells Victoria, "Okay, you want to go into the past. You want to. You're gonna find out it's not as romantic as you think. It was dangerous, and well, they're gonna do that literally. Not in this episode. This is the preparation for the costume ball. I love how Vicky and Barnabas are going through the trunk of all the old clothes. What did you guys think of that?
Two realities are happening, obviously. There's Vicky's reality, which is discovery, and there's Barnabas's reality, which is, I recognize all of this stuff, and it's bringing back memories of this, that, and the other thing. So you're getting and it's really well done between the two of them. All Alex Moltke has to do is focus on the clothing and the trunk, and that allows Frid to sort of wander in his mind and express non-verbally some recollection that he has or some desire that he has to get Vicky into this Josette's dress and make her Josette. That's going on at the same time. So yeah, it's great. It's a nice little acting piece. It's like counter singing. Where you have, one person singing one line of a song, the other one's doing maybe in the background, doing some stuff, either syncopated or something counter. This is what's going on with the acting in that scene.
It is. And in the story.
Yep.
This was always an episode that I thought should have come closer to the sequence, to the 7095 sequence, because it's such a tease.
Mm-hmm, it is.
And I want that sequence to come right up. And it's as I recall, it's a ways off.
It is. It's probably about 80 episodes away, a little more than 80 episodes away. I think it was 366 is when they hit the seance.
Yeah. But it's also exemplary of the long burn of Dark Shadows. So, like so much on Dark Shadows that you could cite as a flaw, you can just as easily turn it around and talk about why it's a bonus.
Mm-hmm. And it was good practice, because at this point we're about 60 or so, almost 70 episodes into the Barnabas storyline. By this time, it's becoming clear that his presence is spiking the ratings and conceivably saving the show.
Yes.
So at this point, it's good to start bringing in this past stuff. I don't know if Caldwell was made aware of anything other than this is what the episode needs to be like. Here's the flimsy da-da-da-da-da. Or whether or not he was told, well, we're going to project this into the future. And it may well be that they were already thinking about it, even that far back.
Yeah.
Because, let's see, 80 episodes is about 4 months. It's about 4 months, because it's 20 episodes a month, or maybe sometimes 21 or 2, depending on if the month is long. But it's it's quite possible that they were already thinking about this in terms of fashioning a past for Barnabas. Obviously, they're doing that dialogically. He's talking about the past. He's talking to Willie about stuff and about how Jeremiah was, he hated Jeremiah at this point instead of loved him, which of course gets retconned. But they're starting to fill in details. Josette, and that happened fairly early, but then they start lingering on things like that. And then you've got Sarah and all of this sort of thing. So I think the slow build was really effective.
Yeah.
I think you're right on that.
And it's always fun when you have Willie and Barnabas interact with one another, especially this episode. The fact that Willie's like, they're not good. They wouldn't want to come to this, Barnabas. He's like, well, I already talked to my cousin Elizabeth, and they're happy to attend to this. And then when they're pulling out when they get the clothes, and he sees the dress of the little girl of Sarah, he's like, that's the dress that little girl was wearing. I'm telling you, Barnabas, a little girl I saw playing. And he's like, I don't got time for this.
No, don't want to hear about that. No.
Well, Barnabas as always is thinking about, the ladies, and he's a woman's man, and he has no time to talk.
That's right.
Yeah. My wife seems to love Canadians for some reason. I don't know.
Well, but you also knew that because of Barnabas's Asian cooking.
Mm.
You can tell by the way he used his walk.
That's right.
Yeah. I do love the fact that too, when they're going through the clothes, you see Jeremiah's, and he goes, "Oh," and Vicky's like, "Isn't that for Joshua?" He's like, "Oh no, that's Jeremiah Collins," and they show the dress of Millicent Collins, so we're getting a preview of who the Collinses were from a namesake in the past.
Absolutely. And
Before we ever meet them.
Naomi, all the main players in the Collins household are being mentioned. The primary family members are being mentioned. So that's kind of a fun thing. I always liked Caldwell's writing. I always thought he was a thoughtful writer. He wasn't the most dynamic writer on the show, but I always thought he was competent and thoughtful in the way that he wrote things.
I don't think he gets enough credit because there aren't as many things that you can kind of pin on him.
Mm-hmm.
As you can with many of the others, and that's a shame. But yeah, that's kind of the hand that he is dealt. He's the workman.
Yeah.
In there.
He I believe he is also the only surviving writer from the show.
I wonder how old he is.
In his 90s.
Yeah. I wonder, is he still compos mentis?
I do not know, but as of probably 5 or 6 years ago, he was. He wrote a little biography on his career and put that out.
Interesting.
Yeah, I can get you the name of that, as a matter of fact. Hold on a second here. I've got a Kindle copy of it.
Cool.
And it has a brief section on Dark Shadows, but it goes over. It's called In the Shadow of the Bridge, Joseph Caldwell.
Oh yeah, you've told me about that before.
A memoir. Yeah, it's a memoir. And it's available on, I think, Amazon. I don't think it's particularly expensive, so it's not a long read either. So it's pretty interesting. And the part about Dark Shadows is enlightening to a degree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Now, Sarah is first introduced during when Maggie's kidnapped. The character isn't like. Alan pointed out earlier, the character isn't quite yet revealing things to David. She's going to be. But by the end of this episode, she's standing there in the room. Because as Barnabas puts it, hey, I don't have time for Willie and his nonsense. And Willie leaves the room, and then they see Sarah. And Sarah's like, hey, my dress.
Yes. My favorite blue dress.
Yes. What did you guys think of the ghost of Sarah Collins?
As a character?
Yeah, as a character.
I think she's incredibly important. I write extensively about that in Daybook Unbound. I give her a lot of airtime in there, and I think that you could write books about Sarah. I definitely do. I used to just kind of be annoyed, or want to see where she goes or something like that, by her presence, because it was just this constant tease. And then I looked on it differently. And what I came to appreciate is that I kept wondering, there's got to be some kind of force that's moving all these people around in time. I mean, there really doesn't have to be, but it certainly makes sense if there is.
You sure?
And so if you're dealing with that, what are the possible candidates? Well, I think the most likely candidate, at least in this early part of the series, is Sarah. And she's existing for a couple of reasons. One, she comes back, her sense of time is a little odd. She never quite left. But she really comes back in earnest when Barnabas shows back up. Mm-hmm. I think because she has an opportunity to save him. Mm-hmm. I don't think she was really in a position that fresh to death to do something about it.
No, and he's been locked in the coffin where he's not been a threat to anyone else or himself. So yeah.
So there was that. The other thing is, she has to warn people about Angelique. And who's one of the best people to warn? Well, the most trustworthy character on the show, Vicky. One who doesn't lie. Unfortunately, this means dragging Vicky through time.
Right.
But she also knows that Vicky's going to die at Angelique's hands, potentially, probably more than once, if she doesn't intervene.
Right.
And so there's also that. And she has great affection for Vicky anyway, because, she exists outside of time. She is aware, I imagine, of both the Phyllis Wick timeline and the Winter's timeline, both at once.
So you are probably of a mind then that when Sarah talks about not quite remembering things, that maybe she does, but David isn't really capable of dealing with it.
She's lying.
Yeah.
Because David is so annoying.
I think it would blow David's mind if he told her everything all at once.
Yeah. And that if she said, well, I can't tell you right now. Oh, David would just...
We'd be right in there. Yeah.
It's all she would hear.
Same way with Maggie, when Maggie asks her, how did you get here? How did you get here? Well, I just get into places. I know how to do it.
Because what I think doesn't get countenanced is that just because she died as a little girl doesn't mean
that she's not intellectually there.
Sure. Right. Oh my God, she's seen everything. She's seen 1897.
Yeah. She's a trans-dimensional being from the past.
Yes. And she could appear any way she wants. And, you talk about the 360s. 364, for me, is the Rosetta Stone, really, for this series, where, she just comes out and says, Barnabas. She finally talks to Barnabas. Barnabas, you're not going to see me again. You're barely seeing me now. Why? Because you're a bad person. Mm-hmm. You're bad. And that's not how I was raised by you. So that's how this is. You hurt people, and you can't lie to me. You lie to yourself. You can't lie to me. You can lie to them. You can't lie to me. And she says fascinating things like the dead are angry.
Yeah.
What dead is she talking about? Her.
Yeah.
She's talking about herself. She's not talking about Quentin. They don't care about Barnabas. He's not even in the right branch of the family that they're upset about.
That's correct.
Quentin is kind of angry. He doesn't have anything against Barnabas.
No.
Or David, sort of. I mean, you could see that as a prelude to her attack, or to Quentin's attack on David, but I don't think so.
No, David. I think that's because David is a dead ringer for Jameson, and there's
sure. And you could say it's about Judah Zachary, but I think that's like, why? I mean, what does that accomplish? Nothing. So this is really a case of Sarah being one of the most powerful forces in the early part of this Dark Shadows universe. But she has a definition of good.
Yeah.
And the definition of good for her, ultimately, and this is so cosmic and so, in the best sense, Christian, It's forgiving Angelique.
Yeah.
It's forgiving Angelique and admitting that he loves her. And he's not able to do that until basically what we consider to be the last episode of the show.
Right.
And so for me, if I got to be Monday morning quarterback, and you could say this is fan service, who cares? If I were making Dark Shadows, and it would have looked bad considering the tools they had at the time, but one of the last shots of that episode where he's killed or he sent Trask into the other dimension and so on and so forth.
Yes.
Is Stokes, and Barnabas does go to Angelique's funeral, and he is there, and Stokes is looking out at him because you can see everything, including the graveyard, from the house, and he says, "Julia, come here," and she says, "Why?" And he says, "There's a little girl holding Barnabas's hand," and she goes, and she says, "She didn't see anything." He said, "Well, there was," and that would be it.
Yeah.
That would be it. That she does come back, and that's why Barnabas finally is able to leave 1840.
Right.
Yeah.
Literally moving on with his life.
And not be totally emotionally shattered by what's just happened.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That would make sense too.
That's what I think of Sarah.
Yeah. I think too, there's two ghosts that really intertwine with each other well, the ghost of Josette and the ghost of Sarah. Because with Josette, think about what she was before the arrival of Barnabas. She's somebody who protected the family. She's somebody who looked out for the family. And somebody asked me, like on Twitter years ago, well, why doesn't Josette protect the family for Barnabas? I said, because Barnabas isn't a threat to them. I said, look, she doesn't. Josette does nothing to stop the release of Barnabas because he's meant to get out. He's meant to get out and help the family in a way. Now with Sarah, and she tags in Barnabas' sister, like, okay, you deal with him, because who else is better to deal with Barnabas than Sarah?
Right. That's also when Barnabas becomes a threat to David. And
Yeah.
this is when Sarah becomes apparent to David, and very, very much a big part of his everyday life.
Yeah. Absolutely. What's you guys' favorite scene from this episode?
I like the scene between he and Willie because I think it is a transitional scene in a lot of ways, or at least a pre-transitional scene where they're actually talking like almost equals to one another in parts of the conversation, and then of course Barnabas will assert himself. But there are moments in that conversation where Barnabas deigns to answer Willie's questions, and he's being relatively patient with him in comparison to what he's been in the past, where he's been beating him. And
that's really rewarding. I mean, not beating Willie, but that moment of maturing.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them, but largely of Barnabas.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it the first time I saw it. I thought, how refreshing. Couldn't he have been this nice to him the whole time? And
Right.
no. But
he sees the dimension of confidant. I think at this point he's starting to see that.
Yes.
I think too, you got a small taste of that with Maggie Evans when he has her locked down in the basement and Willie's talking to him before he goes down and kill him. It's like he's actually standing there listening to Willie talk to him instead of just marching down and breaking the girl's neck.
Yes.
It's like, you beat this guy like a redheaded stepchild, and now which is great character development. So, and they've paid that forward now because Willie's saying, "Hey, there's this little girl all around her. Hey, that's her dress. I don't got time for your game."
No, but surely he will be listening to Willie and Sarah. So.
Yeah, and Willie's going to get shot too. He's going to get full of holes eventually.
Well, that's when Barnabas reverts to survival mode and kind of trashes everybody along the way for a little while. But there is progress being made. 2 steps forward, 1 step back, kind of stuff going on.
So the Collinsport Police Department have a 99.9% accuracy with their guns.
Yes.
Ask Willie.
Mm-hmm. apparently, but only about a 3% lethality.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
It's true. I mean, they get Willie right in the back 5 times, does nothing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Puts him in an oxygen tent, which Julia attempts to set on fire with her cigarette.
She plays fast and loose.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a Grayson move. It's like, I have to have a cigarette right now. I just got to have a cigarette now.
Sam, write me in more smoking scenes.
Patrick, what was your favorite scene, man? Did you pick?
Same scene Alan mentioned.
Okay.
Yeah. How about you, Jewel?
I love the scene where they're looking through the clothes in the trunk. You see Victoria Winters, and I love too the scene where they're walking in the room to Josette's room. It's a picture I took today when I was watching the episode. So, my main scene though, I'll pick one. Sorry, Elizabeth talking to Vicky, I think is a big deal because finally Elizabeth is like, okay, you want to find out about the past? Let's do it. You'll find out it's not as romantic as you think.
Yeah, Liz is kind of a foreshadow.
Yep.
You know, she's giving that emotion off of foreshadowing and foreboding. But she relents and says, "Okay, I'll go."
Yeah.
You know, with
yeah, she's doing it to show Vicky, hey, okay, we can play dress up, but the past, it's not as safe as you think. Right. And I think that's a big moment coming from a main character who, the audience trusts, so with Elizabeth. But yeah, is there anything you guys got that before we go?
This is as this episode closes, this is one of the famous episodes where a tech gets caught on screen during the closing credits. You see a guy in the window there.
Yeah.
And he staggers around for a while. He doesn't get off as quickly and efficiently as normally you would think they would. But he's probably a grip or something. I don't know. I always found that interesting. It's not as jarring to me. It's almost like it's part of the theatricality of it.
It's his last day.
That's right. It probably was after that.
In many ways, yeah.
It's like, I wonder if the guy that Catherine used to talk about in her book about the guy that used to like drink backstage and sleep. He was an old guy. She called him Old Joe or something. And this dude shows up every once in a while to do something.
He's their good luck charm.
Yeah.
Is there anything you guys want to do tomorrow?
I'm open. I don't know. What do you think?
I was wanting to review Enemy at the Gates with you guys. You ever see it?
Enemy at the Gates. I never have.
It's a World War II movie.
Jude Law.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, sure. Enemy at the Gates.
Yeah. It's a siege of Stalingrad and a bunch of sharpshooters.
Yes. I think you guys will enjoy it. Okay. So good movie. All right.
Rachel Weisz in it as well. And
yes.
People are in it.
Is it better than Rat Race?
Yes.
And it's definitely better than Wacky Taxi.
Yes.
Wow. Oh my God. Did we ever talk about? What happened with that?
We swore it off after seeing.
None of us could find it online.
Oh no, we found it.
Oh, you found it?
We found it.
Okay.
But it was pretty terrible.
Jewel, it's horrible.
It's totally horrible.
Oh my God. Oh goodness.
There are better instructional videos on episiotomies.
Yeah.
Than this.
And much more scintillating ones. Yes.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Deeper character development.
Exactly.
Look, there are just movies that are bad. I mean, come on.
It's true.
Yeah, I wrestled with that for a while because there was a period when I got very tired of good movies. I know it sounds odd, and
start chewing on the bad ones.
Yeah, it's sort of. I was basically thinking, well, maybe this is just good, but in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And that was an interesting phase to go through. And my friend Peter talked me out of it. He said, Patrick, no, I got a good definition for a bad movie that you will be able to get behind. And I said, okay, what is it? I said, a bad movie is one you don't want to see again.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, yes, that's very wise. And there are movies I don't want to see again. In fact, what's odd is, have you ever been to see a traditionally good movie, usually an Oscar nominee or something like that, and you walk away from it and you think, this is a good movie. You never want to see it again, but it's a good movie. Have you had that experience?
I have.
Yeah.
I've had that experience, particularly with movies that are harrowing. Like 1917 is a harrowing film. It's a very good film. The scenography, the cinematography, the acting, it's very spare, but it's a long movie. But it's very spare in terms of its storytelling.
Okay.
But it's really it's affecting and it's harrowing at times. And the experience was good. It was vivid. But I don't want to see it again.
See, harrowing, I get. I'm thinking more movies like Cinderella Man. Stuff like that.
I understand what you mean by that, but I've watched that several times because I'm popular culture, history, that thing. So, yeah. And my dad remembers him.
Really?
Yeah, he was a kid when in 35, he was like 7 or 8 years old. They listened to the fights on the radio.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah, that was a championship fight, so it was a national broadcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, guys, I'll see you tomorrow night for Enemy at the Gates.
Joseph Fiennes is also in it, and oh God, who else? The guy from The Deep, who never wants to talk about it.
Nolte?
No. He's also in. No, it'd probably be better. He's in The Right Stuff. God, I can't think of his name now. Anyway, he's the director in. Crap. Anyway, he's in it too.
Okay.
He's a very good actor.
Bob Hoskins is in this movie too.
What's that?
Bob Hoskins is in this.
Yes,
movie.
he is. He plays Khrushchev.
Yes.
Yes. Khrushchev is a general, I think, during the war.
Ed Harris is in this movie.
Ed Harris. That's who I was trying to think of. Okay. He plays a Nazi sniper.
Yes.
Well, good. All right. Well, you got me sold.
Yeah.
Yes. This movie's really, really good. You guys will enjoy it. Link to Patrick McCray's Dark Shadows Daybook and Bound is going to be in the description box. Go pick it up if you haven't already. Link to Alan Gallant's YouTube channel, Colin Sport After Dark, is going to be in the description box. Go subscribe to Count Patofi himself, and I am not joking. No.
You got to hand it to him.
Yes, yes.
Where's my ring?
Hi.
Aristide!